Okay, so here it is, the Goggles N3, DJI entry-level goggles in the FPV market. And I use that term very loosely only because this thing reminds me a lot of the Goggles V2, only with more capabilities if that's even possible. Don't forget, those original V2s launched around $650. So to have a goggles of 1/3 the price, it's pretty impressive and kind of a steal, guys. So let's open this up and see how it looks. And first thing I see here is a QR code you want to scan before you use. This is the QR code to download the DJI Fly app. And you'll need that to see or preview the image on your goggles, as well as to activate and register this goggles overall, typical DJI products. And the first thing I see here is a box here with some manuals, a quick start guide, and another manual here. So safety guidelines, pretty cool. We got 2 manuals in here. And all you see here is a big old goggle. It looks pretty big. So let's pull this out. Besides that, nothing else in here, just some silica gel and some foam to hold this thing together. All right, so here it is, the DJI Goggles N3. Ooh, this thing looks amazing. Now, this thing looks a little bit bigger, honestly, than the V2 goggles, which is what I have here. We can compare them here right now. Now, at first glance, these things look very identical, but the DJI N2 looks a little bit, surprisingly, a little bit larger than the actual V2, which is a couple years old at this point. But let's weigh these two to see a comparison of the weight, since that's pretty important here overall. Around 491 grams. And we do also have the battery here. We'll just wait, even though you can put this in your pocket. Some people actually put it near their head as well. So let's see here, around 607 grams. So let's see how much the new N3 weighs. 544 grams. So it's a little bit heavier than the V2 goggles, which is kind of astounding only because this thing is so much newer than the older goggles. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the Goggles N3. And wow, there's a lot to absorb here. It's pretty cool. Looks like a hybrid between the Goggles V2 and the Integra, guys. Just some of this head strap on here, but it's unmistakably similar to the V2 in a lot of ways. The vents. Now on the front here, you have this faceplate here, or this front plate on here, and that's very similar to the one on the V2s. Now I have mine changed here, altered. This has a BDI adapter to accommodate this analog module in here. That's one of the big perks of the V2 goggles. Unfortunately, there's no inputs on this one here, but this factory plate here is very similar to the one on the V2. Now behind these faceplates, you also have directional antennas, which is pretty cool. We have 4 antennas on here, 2 behind the faceplate, and on top here we have 2 external antennas here, which you can be fold out and fold back down, which is really nice for packing and for transport. Now on the top here, you also have 2 vents similar to the ones in the V2, and this is used to cool the electronics in this goggles, as well to remove moisture in the screens as well. So we'll see how that works in a few moments. Now in the front here, you have something a little bit different than their previous goggles. You have 2 ports here, one as a micro SD card to record the footage going to your DVR, as well as a USB-C port to charge the battery in your headset, as well as to have an output going to your cell phone. So on their previous goggles, you would have a wireless output. So say a friend can monitor what you're looking at. This one here is wired, which is a pretty cool design, and that feature is still here, but only in a wired configuration. Now, besides to the left here, you have some jog wheels here. You have a 5D joystick, which is honestly a cool return. Kind of the same exact switch. Well, it's a little bit different, but very similar to the one on the V2. 5-directional joystick to navigate the menu in the goggles, as well as a back button on here. Now, on the side here, you have a power button, pretty simple, and it's cool to see that on these goggles. For a while, a lot of goggles didn't have any switches. You can see right here, there's no switch. In this one, we have to rely on the battery for power. Now, talking about battery and strap here, we have this strap design here with the integrated battery in it. Now, a little bit different here from their older products. We have 2 points of contact here. Although it's kind of strange because they do have a 3rd point here, very similar to the one on the older goggles. So that does provide some additional support, as you can see here on the V2 goggles. So there might be a option for that. And it's kind of weird because the battery also has a loop for that as well. So I don't see any additional straps in the box here, but that could be an optional accessory for this whole goggles here. Now the battery here in the back here is pretty cool. It kind of offsets the weight of the goggles, and I would assume it feels like most of the weight is actually in the battery. That's what it feels like. Now this is a 2450 milliamp hour battery. This thing here is good for around 2.7 hours of flight time, which is adequate, not too bad. I don't think I see anyone flying for more than 2 hours at a time. And even on the newest goggles, the Goggles 3 is good for 3 hours. So 2.7 hours isn't bad for a budget goggles of this price. As you can see, you have the cable here going from the actual battery straight into the goggles. Now it looks pretty interesting. It looks like a barrel connection. That's what it looks like, but it really isn't. You really can't unplug this or unplug the one into the goggles. I also am assuming that you can also put a battery bank in the front here while using this in the same time, so you can actually charge and use the goggles simultaneously. Now besides that, in the back here, you have an adjustment for this battery strap. Like I said before, it's pretty cool, but you can actually have like this knob here to make it tight or loose, and it looks pretty robust overall. We'll see how this thing here fits. This is my first time using this style here, and traditionally I've used these batteries and put it in my pocket due to the fact that these things could explode, but they've been safe for me, at least overall, these past years. Now in the center here is the star of the show, and these are the optics or screen for these goggles. Now the first thing here is a lens protector, which is pretty cool. It doesn't look too strong, but it is made out of some high density foam. And I see a lot of cues here from the V2 goggles, only because the older ones didn't have it, but you know, you can purchase your screen protector right here, which I did do. It's good to see that DJI is adding some of the accessories with these goggles from the factory. Besides that, we do have some protectors here as well. It says remove before use. We can pull these out. Ooh, that's awesome. Here's the second one. Why am I so excited? Now what we have here is a 3.5 inch 1080p LCD screen, which is good for around 60 frames per second. Now this is a lot better resolution than the one on the V2 goggles, but the refresh rate isn't as high as the ones in the V2, which was around 120 Hertz. Now this should give you a lot better resolution, which is good for the O3 cameras and the soon to be O4 Air unit. So we'll see how that works as we put this here on. Besides that, this does have a field of view around 54 degrees, which is kind of similar to the ones on the goggles too. Now, a lot of people don't like that wide immersive field, but for me personally, I do like that wide theater feel, guys. Now, besides that, we do have some padding on here and a nose guard here, and these are a little bit of a high density foam. And it kind of reminds me of the one that I have here on my Goggles V2. Now, these Goggles V2 did not come with this foam here, but it looks like DJI is taking some cues from the aftermarket world and implementing that into their newer goggles. We'll see how this thing here fits my face. I'm kind of excited to put this on. Now, one thing that's interesting on the hair is that you don't see any adjustment for these goggles. As you can see in the V2s, we did have some IPD adjustments, so we can adjust the width of these lenses. This one here has absolutely nothing, no focus, nothing. So is this thing gonna be good for people like me with bad vision, or is this thing made for people with good vision? Well, I'm pleased to announce that this thing takes some cues from the V2 as well. And these N3 can accommodate goggles. And I haven't tried it out yet, so let's see if it works. Let's put this on. All right, I guess we put this one on first here. All right. I'll take, ooh, wow. Sorry about that. I'm just like, it went from like a little bit of light leak, and as I turn that ratchet, it is completely dark in here. I'm trying to figure this out. Okay. I have just a smidgen. I mean, this thing is dark, guys, but I just have like a smidgen, a sliver of light leak right here. I'm impressed with the Fitment. Okay, glasses feel good. How'd I look, guys? Okay, to be honest with you guys, I should do a back-to-back. This feels pretty good, actually. I mean, I can feel the weight of the goggles. It feels kind of balanced. It doesn't feel too bad. I think this weight in the back does offset the front weight, honestly. It feels really comfortable. But let's do a back-to-back with the V2 since that's what I have. That's my primary goggles. Let's put this bad boy on and see how it compares. Wow, this one is... I would say that this one is pretty good for light leaks as well. I don't have any light leaks in this one, but it does press a little bit more on my nose. Yeah, I would say, although this goggle here is a little bit lighter overall than the Goggles N3, I do think you have a better weight distribution. So in other words, if I put the weight of the battery here and I weigh the goggles to goggles, the goggle itself is lighter than the Goggles V2. Let's confirm that. So if I put the weight, just the goggles, it's 372 grams or so. This new one feels It might be overall heavier on my actual head, but the balance isn't as front heavy as the V2. That's for sure, that's definitive. Now the Goggles N3 was designed specifically to be compatible with the 04 transmission system, hence the reason why at the time of filming this is only compatible with the Neo as well as the DJI Avata drones. But we do suspect DJI to increase the compatibility of these goggles with 03 components. This is the sole reason why I've actually gone to purchase this N3 and kind of park my V2 goggles, at least for now. Maybe I'll make a video why I've done that. Anyways, let's put this on and see how these optics look. Now, traditionally in DJI fashion, you do have to activate and actually update the firmware on these before using them, but I'm gonna try to put this on and see how it looks from the get-go. And now we'll see how it looks with and without my glasses. All right, this is dark. So usually it's a double tap, right? 1 tap, 2, there we go. All right, it's a little bit blurry, I can say that. That's the DJI logo. There it is. It's showing me a setup here. I'm gonna put my glasses on only because I think that's the best thing to do. Let's put this bad boy on. I'll do it the right way. Ooh. Dang, this is sick. I love it. Ugh. I love it. It's clear. It is clear, guys. Yeah, your eyes do have to move a little bit with this widescreen. It feels like a movie theater, obviously. But it's clear as hell. 1080p is amazing. All right, I'm gonna use my 5D joystick here and then choose English. I wish you guys can see this. Can I record this? I don't think I can record this. Let's see if my cell phone can record this. I want you guys to see it. There's the menu here. You can see what the screen looks like. English. All right, 5D button to switch options, to confirm. Let's go to the right, hit next. This shows you how to wear the wristband. Next. Shortcut menu, head tracking, easy acro, defog, the brightness. I think that's all the way up. No, it's not. You can change it. Cool. If I hit the defog, let's see if it works. So this is only for tutorial. There you go. Camera settings. There you go. To the right. All right. It's complete. All right, as we suspected or realized, it's not activated, unable to connect. All right, so they want you to use the mobile phone to actually activate this thing here. I don't want to use the mobile phone. I actually want to use the desktop version, to be honest with you. I don't think I have any option but to do it because, hey, it's not gonna work without it. It is a widescreen, guys. This thing is crazy. But it is clear, I can't lie. It is clear as heck. I'm glad that I actually went and bought this. Let's power this thing down. Okay, so overall, what do I think about the Goggles N3? Well, I do think it's a pretty nice package here. You have a lot of technology built into this goggles. It does have the build quality of a typical DJI product. Yes, it's a bit bulky, a little bit bigger and heavier than all their previous goggles here, but it does feature a lot of modern technology featuring the 04 transmission system and a 1080p screen. And all of that for a ridiculously low price of around $220. It's really a steal, a bargain. It's almost too good to be true, guys, only because that doesn't happen too often in the FPV hobby. I mean, when last have you seen a digital transmission system or a digital ecosystem where the goggles is cheaper than the actual air unit? Even going to the analog days, can you name one? Maybe I'm missing it. Is the HD0 goggles cheaper than the transmission system? Is the DJI system usually cheaper than the transmission system? Is the Walksnail goggles cheaper than the actual transmitter or transmission system? Not really. Analog, for that matter. I think like the cheapest analog goggles around 50, maybe $100 for the cheapest box goggles, and the VTX you can get for like 10, 20, 30, $40. So that doesn't apply either. This is the first time I can think of where the actual goggles is cheaper than the actual 03 air unit. These things retail for around $240. Maybe they're on sale right now, maybe $200 to $220. But this thing here is still cheaper than the transmission system, and that has not happened ever. I can't recall. So in my case, this thing is a bargain of the century. It's too good, and if it can perform anywhere near like the 03, this is 04 obviously, then I do think you have a deal on your hands. So who is the DJI N3 goggles for? I can think of 3 people. Now the first one obviously is new pilots. If you're trying to get into the hobby and you want to get into FPV, this will be the perfect goggles for you. You can start off with the DJI Neo, maybe the Avata 2, and then get the taste for FPV, and then later on buy a traditional hobby grade FPV drone, and this should also transfer to that. Now, the second person will be a person who is, for years, people say, oh, DJI ecosystem is just too expensive. It's not as good as the price. It's just too much money. It's overhyped. Well, here you go, a $200 goggle that can perform like the DJI Goggles 2, the Integra, and somewhat like the Goggles 3. I mean, you don't have the front cameras. It's not as small as the Goggles 3, but it's also a 04 goggles. In fact, it is the only 04 goggles besides the Goggles 3. So $200, pretty cheap. And the last person would be a person like myself, a person who is already in the DJI ecosystem, already flying FPV drones, and probably has some old hardware like the one I hear, the V2. Now, you know, these things has been out for a while. I do think that this is one of the best goggles still for me for DJI because it's so versatile. You have inputs, you have analog, you have a lot of things you can do. You have output as well. It's a pretty cool goggles. And for one point, or probably still currently, it was the goggles with the most compatibility on the market. So even the Potato, the Avata 1, and most of the drones in the market, this thing here was compatible, even the remote control. So pretty cool. But you know, this thing is nearing the end of life here. And as a person who reviews drones, I'm gonna get 04 air units, so this isn't gonna work with that. So it's time to move on. And for me personally, this would be the best option for that. Yes, the Goggles 3 does exist, but $500 compared to $220, to me, it's a no-brainer. Maybe I'll make a video why I am switching over to the Goggles N3. But to have all these features in here, including head tracking for this price is kind of, it's crazy, guys. Now, in the next couple of videos, I'll be doing the activation, show you how to activate this and get this thing here registered for flight. And once this is compatible with the 03 and the upcoming 04, which is rumored to come later this year, then we'll have this here and we'll do some further reviews on this with this goggles. Now, for some time now, I felt that the DJI Goggles V2 was the best goggles made by DJI. I still kind of do think so. And these things are still pretty impressive even in 2025. So if you do own one of these, don't just chuck this in the garbage. This thing is still pretty capable overall. In fact, I'm still using this as my analog goggles. I made a video talking about those feelings and why I thought this was the best goggles at the time, and I'll leave that video linked right here. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.